Hey guys, it's Allan Whatmore here. And in today's video, I want to show you a way that you can reduce stress and reduce anxiety when taking sales calls by having a simple, structured process in place when it comes to taking your sales calls. And I'm going to cover a brief high-level overview as to just a simple structure that you can follow. And then in other videos, I'll most likely have further information so we can break down each of the elements in more detail. So essentially, first things first is, why do we have a sales process in place? So if you think about when it comes to sales, a lot of it is methodical in the way. So you have people that have a natural knack for having conversations with people. They come across confident, but ultimately people aren't buying because of the other person. People are buying for themselves, right? And so there's a certain series of steps that need to be taken and undergo for the person to get to that position where whichever solution that you're offering them or selling to them is something that they genuinely need, want, and is genuinely going to help them. Okay. So when it comes to selling to prospects, you should never sell to prospects that you know that you genuinely can't help. And so in order to know if you can genuinely help someone, you should have a process in place yourself so that you're a lot more confident and you know that you're actually going to make a difference to someone's lives. So what's the benefit of doing this? One is, you're going to close more deals because you're going to turn your sales calls into just a system. Okay, it's going to be less reliant on yourself and how you're feeling that day, and more in place because you just have a simple process in place in terms of check boxes that you need to go through. The second thing is that you're just going to feel a lot more at ease, and you're just going to be a lot less anxious and a lot less stressed because you know that you have a process in place. And you know, on top of that, as long as you stick to that process, you'll do well. Okay. And this third thing is that by having a process in place, you know what you need to improve on. Okay. So if it's here, and with repetition, okay, and improvements and optimizations, you'll push people more through to the end and get more of exactly what you want in your heart of hearts, which is to close more deals and help more people reach their goals. Okay. So what's the benefit of doing this for the prospect? One is the prospect is just going to feel a lot more at ease generally because they know that they're in safe hands because there's already a process that's in place. What's the outcome for you is that, again, you're going to have more peace of mind knowing that you have a process and that the people that you're bringing on are genuinely people that you can help and people that are going to understand the entire process as to what you do. So they're going to be a lot more appreciative. And when they come on as clients, they're going to stay for a lot longer. And so it's just a win-win-win for all, essentially. So first things first is we're going to go through the first step, which is the discovery, right? Another name for this could be your line of questioning or your discovery process. If you're a financial advisor, to what you'd refer to as, let's say, a fact find, right? So let's say if you're a financial advisor and someone says, I've got 400 grand in my super, I want to get to $1 million. And they just say that to you outright. You can't tell them if you can genuinely help them or not because you haven't seen their financial situation. You're not aware. In addition to that, you don't know what other, whether it be investments or you don't know what else their situation looks like. So you cannot help someone until they've gone through that process. It's the same sort of methodology that you should apply to your calls, right? So a discovery process. This doesn't need to necessarily be a full fact find itself, because I know that a fact find could take a lot of time, but you want to have questions about their current situation so that, again, in concept, you know that you can help someone. So for example, you might do an intro, you might introduce yourself, you build a little bit of rapport, and then you want to find out what prompted them to book in a call. And they might say to you, okay, well, I saw you online, or I got referred to you by someone, so on and so forth, or I met you in an event, or I saw your ad, something along those lines. So you want them to let you know what prompted them to book in a call, right? Even if it seems apparent to you, you'd be surprised what the actual answer to this looks like, right? And so you want to find out is, okay, what stood out about you when they were actually first reaching out? Okay. They might say, okay, I saw that you have experience when it comes to retirement planning. Or if you're a buyer's agent, I saw that you help people purchase investment property. I saw that you're nationally accredited. You want to understand what these things are. You want to know what they're thinking, right? Because naturally they might be talking to a whole bunch of other people, but you want to know what stood out about you specifically, right? And then from then you want to position what's going to happen in the call. So you say, okay, how I like to do this is for the first, let's say 10 or 15 minutes. What I'm going to do is ask you a series of questions. The purpose of me doing it is so I can understand exactly what your position looks like now, and most importantly, where you want to get to. And I'll take you through it step by step. Does that sound good? Okay. Get the yes? No worries. Okay. You can continue on with your process. And so you might ask them additional situations about where they're at, where their current business is at right now. You might ask them what are the challenges that they're facing at the moment. Let's say if you're an advisor and someone is a pre-retiree or a wealth accumulator, what's their current position, earning X income, doing X, doing X, doing X, have this. Okay, cool. And what's stopping you from then continuing to do what you're doing now? Like, what's stopping you from further building your wealth right now? And they might say to you, okay, well, I just don't know if what I'm doing is even right in the first place. I made a couple of mistakes in the past. I had a previous advisor, yada, yada, yada. So they've come to you for a reason, right? Because they're facing some kind of problem or some kind of challenge. So you want to find out what are the bottlenecks that's preventing them from reaching to their goals in terms of building their wealth or XYZ, right? You want to empathize with them and let them know, okay, that sounds pretty challenging, right? And I can imagine that's probably impacted you in X, Y, Z areas of your life, right? It means that you don't know if what you're doing is right. If you're genuinely moving the needle, you don't know if you're going to have enough money to retire. Just demonstrating empathy, okay? It must be really hard going through this challenge, right? Where do you want to get to? It might be finding out, okay, well, how much money are they contributing into super, or what are they doing right now in order to build wealth? So you start to say, okay, well, what's the goal? Like, where do you want to get to? You want to say, I want to get to X. I might get to $1 million in super. I want to retire 65, retire 64. It's like, okay, that's cool. That gives me a bit of understanding, but why that number specifically? You know, like, why do you want to get to that number? You'd be surprised the answers you hear. People might say, well, you know, I thought that number was a good number, or that'll give me enough to do X, or that'll allow me to go on that holiday, or that'll allow me to provide for my kids. You want to find out the personal motivations behind doing that. It's also good to know if they give you an answer which doesn't sound logical or doesn't make complete sense, you can also work with them through that, right? Would you agree that you probably need a bit more? Or like, if you want to achieve that lifestyle goal that you want, would you agree that you'd need more? Do you think by getting to that goal, you probably want to do more stuff when you're at that stage, if you're retired or, you know, X, Y, Z? Yes. Okay, cool. And then you sort of continue down the process. Once you have a really good understanding of where they're at now, what they're doing, the challenges that they're facing, what it actually means for them, like the results of what they're feeling in terms of the emotions, okay, from going through those challenges, where they want to get to, why they want to get there, what it would mean for them, and then helping them through that process. That alone will give you enough information to know if you can genuinely help someone and the difference that you're going to make to someone's life simply by helping them and then going down this process. So hopefully that makes sense so far, okay? Next is the transition statement, okay? So once you have enough info, okay, it's usually them talking a lot and you asking these questions. Next, you go to a transition statement. Transition statement is transitioning from the discovery to the actual pitch. So, okay, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I'm looking forward to walking you through the process because you're perfect for it, right? Based on what you've told me, you're absolutely perfect for what we do. And again, you empathize with them. So, you know, it must be challenging that, you know, you're going through this situation, and I completely empathize with you and I don't want you to go through this situation. So you're happy for me to walk you through exactly how it works. Okay. And they'll say, yes, for sure. Absolutely. Please do. You know, I've been waiting for this. And then you'll take them through to the pitch. Now, this is different. This is going to be very niche specific, right? So if you're a financial planner, it depends really how your pitch works, right? You might have a presentation, which I've seen for some, which works really well. You might take them through some modeling software, for example, based on the info that you have now and then where they want to get to. What's the shortfall between them wanting to retire and then not running out of money, essentially? The goal is you want to have it in some kind of visual format, right? Something that people can see. If you can show rather than tell, it's always going to resonate better, if that makes sense. Another thing to note is sometimes you might face instances where people don't necessarily want to go down this process, right? And you might think, oh, I just want you to tell me what you do and then I'll make a decision, okay? The thing that I want you to note is that at the end of the day, the process is there for a reason, okay? For you to find out exactly where the person's at and then see if you can genuinely help them and then walk them through exactly how you can help them and continue the process. So if you don't go through this process, you will potentially bring someone on that you genuinely can't help, and the person's not going to appreciate the work that you're doing for them. And so it's in their best interest and in your best interest that you take them through this process, okay? If you think about it, if you're a financial advisor and you're bringing on someone who's a pre-retiree that wants to build more wealth and income for retirement, and by going through your process, they're going to have an extra $200,000-$300,000. The question is, let's say if this discovery process takes you 20 minutes, okay, would you agree that 20 minutes worth of your time is worth an extra 300 grand in your future? Okay, for building what? Does that sound like a fair investment of your time? Okay, logically, yes. Sometimes people are just in fear because they've just been sold a bunch of stuff in the past and it hasn't worked out for them, or they've made some decisions in the past, or they're just a little bit scared. Okay. You want to show them comfort, right? You're here to genuinely help them, and you won't offer them a solution if you genuinely can't help them. And if you've taken them through the whole process and by the end of it, they feel like it's not a fit, that's absolutely fine. But it's important that you go through this process. Okay. This needs to be your Bible. Okay. You need to build it, then you need to stick to it, right? So we got the pitch, right? I mentioned to you about a couple of options. One is either doing a pitch deck or a presentation, or two is using a form of modeling software as well. Both works really well. It's really up to yourself, really. Modeling software will be more specific to the person's situation. And since financial advice specifically is very dependent on the person specifically, you might be doing different types of advice based on their situation. I strongly recommend that you build out a pitch process specifically that you can replicate for everybody. So you've done your pitch, right? You've gone through that specific situation. Next is the post-pitch process, okay? So if you think about it, right, typically most of the deals or clients that you would have lost to certain objections, where they've told you, I need to think about it, I need to speak to my partner, usually those responses stem from somewhere in your pitch or the demonstration or your actual service that you've shown, right? They have gaps in their knowledge, or they have a lack of confidence in terms of you being able to deliver that has stemmed from them to say, I need to think about it. Typically, if you think about all the decisions that you made, when you say you need time to think about it, you just haven't had enough confidence yet that this is going to work for you. You don't have enough trust in the person or value in the person. And so the post-pitch process, okay, pre-price and post-pitch is where you can understand where the gaps are in their knowledge, and ask any clarifying questions to essentially find out where all the gaps are. Ask all the questions you need to in terms of asking them what questions they have about the product and the process so that you can answer those, right? Because what's going to happen is if you leave this process and you go straight for the investment, then all this stuff, if there's any gaps in their knowledge, these are going to become objections. And it's going to mean that people won't have the confidence to take the leap of faith and work with you. Okay. And it means that you won't help them. They'll lose out on potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay, in their future wealth, and you'll lose out on the client. Okay. No good for no one, right? So post-pitch process, right? So asking questions, clarifying questions, and open-ended questions. Like, what questions have you got for me specifically on this? What do you like about the process specifically? Apart from, they might say, okay, I like the fact that you're getting better performance, or I like the fact that you have a different fund. I like the fact that you've modeled it out. I like the fact of the process that you go through. You'd be surprised. Even people will appreciate the fact that you have a process for these calls in the first place, right? It puts them more at ease. And what questions have they got? And it prompts them to think, right? These gaps in their knowledge might be inside. They might not be front of mind. So you want to root these out. You want to bring these to the surface so you can address them in order to genuinely help them by answering these questions, okay? Your post-pitch process. Hopefully what I'm saying makes sense, right? Until you are sold that they are sold on the product and the process, you should never proceed to an investment, right? Because it's not in their best interest. It's not in your best interest, okay? The importance of the post-pitch process is huge. Sometimes this can take a whole meeting just for this. Really depends. Not necessarily a whole meeting, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, let's say, but you want to root out all these concerns that they've got, objections, concerns, okay? So that they don't become objections for you, okay? And you can genuinely build confidence and conviction in the person to genuinely help them. Then you have your price pitch, which is the investment, okay, which is what you charge. That's pretty straightforward. In the price pitch, you want to retie the investment back to the original outcome that they've told you in the discovery. Because at the end of the day, people are buying solutions to their problems. They're not buying your service specifically. Hopefully that makes sense. And then once you've gone through that, then you'll have the objection handling phase, right? And it's usually a product objection. They don't understand the product. It's a value objection. They don't see the value in what you actually do. It's either a partner objection. They've got to speak to their partner. It's a time objection. Okay, it's either bad timing or it's going to take too much time in order to do. Above here is also money objection. Okay, they don't have the funds to be able to pay for your services. Okay, if you're an advisor and you're charging from super, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. After then, you have fear. And then from fear, you have like bad past experience. Okay, they've worked with an advisor or a buyer's agent in the past, didn't work out quite well, or they just had a pretty average experience altogether. Or the fear they're never invested in the past. They've never invested with an advisor. They've got no idea. Okay, so there's a fear of the unknown. Probably going to be more of these never investors. But hopefully that makes sense. This is a really broad overview specifically, but the core, I guess, message that I want you guys to know is the fact of having a sales call process that you take people through. The benefits of those are huge to your own health and your own sanity, to your clients. Okay. It means happier clients, more deals, more peace of mind, less stress, less anxiety, just all in all beneficial all around. If there's people that don't want to go through the process or are concerned about going through the process, to tackle the reason why they're concerned, right? Like the benefits, making it logical, it makes complete sense. Like I want to make sure that you know exactly what it is that we do, and I know exactly how I can help you. And so this is the one where if the end of it, you don't want to proceed, that's absolutely fine. Okay. But it's important that we go through this, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. If you'd like to see a system that's built where we personally work with you in order to build out your sales process along the lines of building out your client acquisition system as well. Okay. Bringing you more qualified leads and appointments booked on autopilot. There should be a link to book in a call. You can book in a call. You don't have to. It's absolutely fine. But I hope this has given you a really broad overview. Okay. So your discovery, the transition statement, okay, transitioning into the pitch itself, the post-pitch process, very important, your price pitch, and then the objection handling phase. And that's it. Okay. My name is Allan. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you soon.